Welcome, my frightful fiends. I am Dr. Dreadful, licensed in screams, certified in chills, and your personal physician of phobias. You've checked yourself into my clinic of carnage, where the waiting room is filled with shadows, and the only prescriptions are nightmares. Tonight, I've prepared a most dreadful dose of horror, guaranteed to make your skin crawl and your poor little heart pound right out of your chest. So sit tight, keep your eyes glued to the screen, and whatever you do, don't scream too loud. The neighbors might think you're next.
Have you ever worked the night shift? The kind where the silence is so deep it feels like a physical weight on your shoulders? That was my world. My name is Alex, and I was a security guard at the old Blackwood Mill, a place left to rot on the outskirts of town. It was just supposed to be a job. Easy money, they said. Just walk the perimeter, check the locks, and try not to fall asleep. The first few weeks were exactly that boring. The only company I had was the hum of the ancient fluorescent lights and the scuttling of unseen creatures in the walls. I'd listen to podcasts, read old paperbacks, anything to make the hours crawl by a little faster. The mill was a skeleton of its former self, a maze of rusted machinery and shadowy corners. I got to know its groans and creaks, the way the wind whistled through broken panes of glass. I thought I knew every sound the old place could make. I was wrong. It started subtly. A door I was sure I'd locked being ajar on my next round. Tools I'd seen neatly arranged on a workbench, scattered on the floor. An hour later, I blamed it on my mind playing tricks on me. The classic night shift paranoia. I'd chuckle to myself, shake my head, and make a note in the logbook. Windy tonight. But the feeling of being watched started to grow. A persistent prickle on the back of my neck that wouldn't go away. I started talking to myself during my rounds, just to break the oppressive silence. It was on one of these nights, as I was rambling on about some sports game, that I heard it for the first time. A faint whisper, seeming to echo from the far end of the main factory floor. It was so soft, I thought it was the wind again. But then it came again, clearer this time. A single word. Riding on the cold draft here, my blood ran cold. I froze, my flashlight beam cutting a nervous path through the darkness. "Hello? Is someone there?" I called out, my voice sounding small and pathetic in the vast space. The only reply was the echoing of my own words. I tried to rationalize it. A vagrant, maybe seeking shelter. But every lock was secure. Every window was boarded up tight. There was no way in or out. The next night, the whispers were more frequent. They seemed to come from all around me now, swirling in the air like dust motes in my flashlight beam. Sometimes they sounded like a child, other times like an old man wheezing his last breath. They never formed full sentences, just fragments. Cold, alone, help. I started doing my patrols faster, my heart pounding in my chest, my hand never leaving the heavy mag light I carried. I felt like an intruder, in a place that didn't want me there. One night, I was in the old foreman's office on the second floor. It was the one place that felt relatively safe with its single, solid door. I was reviewing the security cameras, grainy black and white feeds, showing empty corridors, when I saw it. A flicker of movement on camera 3, the one pointed down the long hallway leading to the boiler room. I rewound the footage, my breath catching in my throat. There for just a split second. A tall, gaunt figure stood at the far end of the hall, its form distorted by the poor quality of the camera. It was just standing there motionless. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. I told my supervisor, a weary man named Dave, about the whispers and the figure on the camera. He just sighed and handed me a thermos of coffee. "It's an old building, Alex," he said, not even looking me in the eye. "Plays tricks on you. And get some sleep." But I knew what I saw, and I knew what I heard. The activity escalated. I'd hear heavy footsteps pacing on the floor above me when I was on the ground level. The sound of machinery grinding to life for a few seconds before falling silent again. Once, the overwhelming smell of burnt sugar filled the air, so strong it made my eyes water, and then vanished just as suddenly. The mill was waking up, and I was its unwilling audience. The fear was becoming unbearable. I dreaded the sun setting each day. I started bringing a small digital voice recorder with me, determined to get proof, to show someone, anyone, that I wasn't going crazy. I'd leave it running in the different parts of the mill while I patrolled elsewhere. Listening back to the recordings was a nightmare. Amidst the static and the building's natural groans, I captured them, the whispers clear as day. Get out, not yours. We see you. The final night was different. The air was heavy, charged with an energy that made the hairs on my arms stand up. The usual whispers were gone. In their place was a profound, suffocating silence. It was worse. Far worse. I was doing my final round, my steps echoing unnaturally loud in the dead air. I was walking past the main assembly line, a row of skeletal machines that hadn't moved in decades. Suddenly, one of them, a massive hydraulic press, slammed down with a deafening bang that shook the entire floor. My heart nearly exploded. It couldn't have moved. The power had been cut to these things for years. As I stood there, frozen in terror, a voice spoke directly behind me. It wasn't a whisper this time. It was a clear, calm, conversational tone, as if someone was standing right at my shoulder. You shouldn't be here. I spun around, swinging my flashlight wildly. The beam illuminated nothing but empty space and the hulking, silent machines. But the voice, it had been so close. I didn't even bother finishing my round. I sprinted back to the security office, my lungs burning, my mind screaming. I slammed the door, locked it, and wedged a chair under the handle. I sat there, shaking in the corner, watching the grainy monitors and waiting for the sun to rise. And then, I saw him on camera, 3 again. The tall, gaunt figure was back, standing at the end of the hallway. But this time, he wasn't just standing there. He was walking slowly, deliberately walking directly towards the camera, towards the office. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by a fear so absolute, it felt like my veins were filled with ice. He got closer and closer, his features still indistinct in the grainy footage. Just a tall, dark shape, moving with an unnatural, jerky gait. He didn't look human. As he drew level with the camera, he stopped and he turned his head. Even through the low-resolution feed, I could see it. He looked directly into the lens, directly at me. There was no face, just a dark, hollow void where features should have been. And then the screen went to static, all of them. One by one, each monitor fizzled into a mess of black and white snow. The last thing I heard before the sun finally broke the horizon was a soft, polite knocking on the office door. I didn't answer. I stayed, huddled in that corner until Dave arrived for the morning shift. He found me pale and trembling, unable to form a coherent sentence. I quit that day. I never went back to the Blackwood Mill. I don't know what haunts that place, what spirits are trapped within its decaying walls. But I know they are not friendly. I know they are still there, in the dark, in the silence, waiting for the next person who dares to disturb their rest. Some nights when I'm alone and it's too quiet, I can still hear it, that soft, polite knocking. And I know, with chilling certainty, that they remember me. Thanks for tuning into my story. It's a relief to finally get that off my chest.